live stream. My name is Alicia, and in this week's live lesson, we're going to talk about government vocabulary. Today, I have chosen a bunch of vocabulary words about government systems, about the law, and about just daily life inside a country. So I hope that everybody will be able to find the words to describe their country's government system, and also to talk a little bit about their opinions relating to the government. So as you join today, please make sure to hit the like button and of course share this video so that other people can find today's lesson. That would be super cool. I also want to mention this banner at the bottom of the screen which says download your free 2,000 word ebook. If you haven't seen it, the team has made this ebook right here, this one, that has the 2,000 core words of English. Those are the most commonly used words in English. So you can download this for free from EnglishClass101.com now and study the most important words first. You'll find the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube, above the video if you're watching on Facebook. All right, so as people join, I will come to say hello in the chat. But first, let's take a look at all of the different words we're going to talk about today. I've chosen a few different words that are related to government systems and words that are often in the news today. So today we're going to talk about democracy, monarchy, oligarchy, authoritarianism, a few very different government systems. We're also going to talk about some concepts that are important in government, like equality and corruption. We're going to talk about voting. We're going to talk about the political spectrum, left wing, right wing, and centrists. We're going to talk about the word policy and how it's different from law. We'll talk about what it means to be a citizen or what citizenship means. And we'll also talk about public services. I've also included campaign here too. So we're going to cover a lot today. So let's get into it. I'll say hello to everybody in the chat really quickly. On Facebook, hello, Macias, hello. And on YouTube, Natalie, Patrick, Elke, what's up? Fatih, Velan, what's up everybody? Welcome. We have a lot to cover, so let's begin. Let's start, oh yes, if you missed it, don't forget to click the link below the video to find this free PDF ebook. Check it out. I will remind you again later. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's start with democracy. Ta-da! So democracy is our first word for today. The pronunciation is democracy. Democracy. I know it looks kind of like democracy or something like that. Democracy. Democracy. So the emphasis is on the mock right here. Democracy. Okay? So a democracy is a government system in which the people choose the leader by voting. Okay? The basic concept of a democracy is the people get to choose, right? There are many different systems for many different countries, so they're all a little bit different. But basically, the people either directly choose the leader or they choose leaders who then choose the next highest level leader, yeah? So let's look at this in a sentence. Our country became a democracy more than 100 years ago. So our country became a democracy more than 100 years ago, okay? Can't really see it. We'll see it here in a little bit, but I have a picture. There's a picture down here of a person putting a piece of paper into a box that is called voting, but we'll get to that later. Okay, let's compare this then to another government system that is not so popular these days, that is not so common these days, used to be very popular. The system is a monarchy. 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 So the emphasis is here. Monarchy. A monarchy is a government system in which the leaders are from a family. So that means kings, queens, princes, and princesses, okay? So a monarchy was ruled by a family, yeah? So we have lots of stories of monarchies throughout history, but today we don't have a lot. Here's one example, though, of a modern monarchy. Saudi Arabia has a monarchy. The king is the head of the state and the head of the government. Okay, so that means that family or the leader of that family is also the leader of the country. Yeah, this is a monarchy, Okay, all right, and then we'll continue to the third one here, a very different system. This one is oligarchy. We see this one in the news a lot lately, oligarchy. So the emphasis goes here, oligarchy. An oligarchy is a system in which a small group of very high status or very wealthy, very, very rich people control the decisions for a country. So these are people with super, super high, extreme amounts of wealth, like some of the richest people in the world. They get together and make a group in the country, and they make the decisions for the country. It's important to note, these are often not like the official systems of government. It's like sometimes there will seem to be a leader, like a president, for example, but behind the scenes, maybe there will be some very, very powerful and rich people that make the real decisions. So it's kind of tough to find an oligarchy that says we are an oligarchy. Usually there's some kind of system in place that makes it look like a democracy, for example. So let's look at an example of this. An oligarchy is a group of people who make decisions for the country to help themselves. So this is one of the issues with an oligarchy. Often the very, very wealthy people making these decisions don't make decisions for the people. They make decisions to help themselves. Okay? So here we have oligarchy. All right, so these are our first 3 government systems I want to talk about today. Let's continue to the next 2, and then we'll look at a couple of example sentences. Okay. I'm going to check the chat quickly too. Omar, democracy, it can be plural. Yeah, so to make democracy plural, you say democracies. There are many democracies around the world, for example. Ina wrote, UK as well has a monarchy. Yes, absolutely. There are many, actually, I'll go back. There are many monarchies today that aren't in charge of the government. Like many countries have a king or a queen or a prince or a princess, but they don't have government power. They just have like they're like a symbol for the country, yeah? Like maybe they participate in official ceremonies, but they don't have government power. So we have quite a few of those around the world today. They're like cultural figures. But today we don't have so many monarchies that are actual government powers. So yes, you are correct. Okay. Continuing, okay, the next 2. Let's talk about these 2. These also appear in the news a lot lately. We see the words dictatorship and authoritarianism. What is the difference between these 2? Okay, so a dictatorship, first, this is a government system in which one person or a very small group of people, they hold complete power. So they can do anything, right? So usually the leader of a dictatorship is called a dictator. So you'll notice it's the same root there. A dictatorship is the system. A dictator is the leader of that system. You'll also notice here, this part, this dictate. So to dictate to someone means to tell them what to do, right? Or to give orders to someone. That's the feeling of a dictatorship, giving people orders. And usually in a dictatorship, it's one person with complete power, or it could be like a small group of people with complete power. So it's like they can do anything. They don't have to worry about making or following all the rules in the country, yeah? So we do have some examples of dictators and dictatorships in history. Okay, so let's compare this then to authoritarianism. Authoritarianism. Here we have the root in here, maybe you can see it, authority. Authority. So authority means like being in charge. You are the person who has authority. So for example, in your workplace, the person with authority is your boss, right? Your boss or your manager. The person above you, right? The person above that is their boss, right? That person has authority. So that means that they have the power to like watch over you, watch over your team, to make decisions, and so on. So in authoritarianism, the government is in charge. The government is looking over everything, of course. But authoritarianism is a government system in which there is strong central power. There is reduced democracy, and there's reduced personal rights. So it's like there are many, many strict rules in an authoritarian society, or people are watched very, very closely in an authoritarian society. Okay? So an example sentence, an authoritarian government system can have extremely strict rules for the people. Okay? In this sentence I've used, this is the adjective form here. So an authoritarian government. This is how we make this word authoritarianism, the noun, into an adjective. Authoritarian government. Okay? So this is kind of, oh, maybe you can't see the image very well right now, but this is kind of the feeling of an authoritarian system. There are strict rules that you must follow. And an authoritarian system can be part of a dictatorship. So we can have, for example, a dictator in an authoritarian system. Often those two go together. All right? Okay, let me take a look at the chat. I don't see any questions, so let's continue to some review points, and then we'll take a look at our next group of questions, or our next group of vocabulary words. So, democracy. Let's refresh our minds, because this one is probably the most important one here. A democracy is the form of government recently changed from a monarchy to a democracy. Yeah? So here is our keyword, democracy, and today we also learned monarchy. Maybe you can remember what a monarchy is. That's the one where a system of government, it's a system of government ruled by a family line, the one with kings and queens and so on. Okay, let's continue to the next example, authoritarianism. Okay, in an authoritarian government, citizens must follow extremely strict rules and may face extreme punishment. So again, we've talked about authoritarianism and authoritarian as the adjective form, okay? So we have two contrasts, democracy, lots of people participating and voting, and authoritarianism, strong rules, strict punishment if you do not follow the rules. Okay, I don't see any questions, so let's continue to the next one. All right, the next group of words, we have equality. Equality is a noun, all right? Equality suggests all people are equal. That's the concept of equality. So that means differences in race, in religion, gender, class. Oops, I put gender twice, sorry. Gender, class are not important, okay? So all people have the same rights. Everyone is equal. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone has the same rights. So equality, in the example sentence, is a good thing. So modern societies promote equality for their people, okay? So it's a good thing to have everybody have the same kinds of rights, okay? Equality. All right, let's continue to the next one. Maybe not quite the opposite, but a very negative word then, but an important word to know, corruption. Corruption. So corruption. Corruption is a noun. Corruption means dishonest behaviors and actions by people in power, such as government officials, okay? Dishonest behavior. So, for example, taking money inappropriately or making rules for certain people but not for yourself. So corruption, we see corruption in probably most governments around the world. Corruption, unfortunately, is very common, okay? Here's the example. Unfortunately, many countries have serious corruption problems in their governments, yeah? The people in power make decisions for themselves. Before, same picture, we talked about oligarchy, right? Oligarchy was the system that it refers to a number of very, very wealthy people or high status people making decisions and making decisions for themselves, right? So that could be an example of corruption, making decisions only to help themselves. Okay, let's continue to the last one here. The last one, maybe the one that everybody can use easily, maybe the most easy to use word from this lesson today, is to vote. To vote as a verb. I have it as a verb here. To vote means to make a personal choice for a leader for a government position. So that means you can write on your what's called a ballot or the paper, the voting paper. You can write or you can go online and select your choice for leader. So the verb for that is to vote, right? The noun is also vote. So a vote is one selection, one person's selection. So we'll take a look at the example sentence here. It's very important to vote in your country's election. So here we have as a verb, vote. All right, good. I don't see any questions. Messias, is there a real democracy around the world? Oh, that's a big question, right? Some people say, yes, there are many, and other people say, definitely not, probably. But maybe that's a big question for people to ask. What does a real democracy mean, right? In theory, a real democracy means a government system where people choose the leader by voting and people get to make decisions by voting. So in that sense, we could say there are probably some, but it's a big question. Okay, let's review. Let's review some words now. So, oh, good question. Omar, what is the meaning of election? Let's see. I'll put it here. So, election right here. An election. An election means for example, when your country is trying to choose a new leader and the time when everybody has to make the decision about who the leader is. It depends on your country. If your country has a democracy, an election means the time when you get to vote, you get to choose. It's that time period, usually, depending on the country, it could be 1 day, it could be 1 week. That's the time period where you get to vote. That's an election, right? And so the result of the election chooses the new leader. So the election is the process of choosing the new leader. I hope that helps you. Okay? All right. Patrick wrote, unfortunately, corruption is something cultural to Brazilian politics. Oh, that's difficult. Yeah, I think there's a lot of examples of corruption in many different ways, in many different countries all around the world. Every country has kind of unique issues, I think. Okay, so let's review equality. This one's an important one. Equality. A new education plan aims to improve equality between students in urban and rural areas. Okay, so here we have our keyword, equality. What does this mean? A new education plan aims to improve. Aims to improve. This means the goal of the new education plan is to improve equality. Aims to improve. Then we have these words, urban and rural areas. We often see these words in like kind of polite conversation, government conversations, policy conversations. Urban usually refers to city, yeah, city areas, and rural typically refers to countryside areas or outside the city, yeah, so city and country areas or rural, country, sorry. So often refers to city and more countryside or outside the city areas. So this sentence means there's a new education plan and the idea of the plan is to improve equality. So having the same rights for everybody, for students in the city and in the country areas. Nice, nice, okay. All right, St. Pierre, can anyone vote in different countries? To the best of my knowledge, I do not think so. I think you can only vote in your country. I don't know, maybe if you have, depending on the country, maybe if you have what's called dual citizenship, but I don't know. It depends on the rules of that country. Okay. Penspa on Facebook wrote, rural like suburbs. Rural tends to mean a little more outside of town. It sounds like there are not many houses. I think usually we would say this, it depends a little bit, but for me, I would say rural doesn't include suburbs. I would say the suburbs are still urban. You're still close to the city. Rural areas is more like, for example, farmland or in places where there's not a big city, right? Maybe there's a very, very small town only. That might be rural communities. Okay? All right, let's continue to, what did I say was next? Corruption. Let's review this keyword too. Corruption. Here's our next example sentence. An investigation into political corruption has led to several arrests. Oh my. So maybe you have seen this in the news in your country. So here's our keyword here, corruption. An investigation. That means the officials checked the corruption status in the country and the results. So it has led to several, so several means many, arrests. So that means people in handcuffs going to jail. The police put handcuffs on them. Okay, let's continue to the next group. What did I put next? Ah, yes, let's differentiate these two. Okay, the next pair, I want to talk about these as a pair because even native speakers have this question. The pair is policy and law. What is the difference between policy and law? So, policy means like the goals and the activities of a government, right? So, They're also the guidelines for rules in governments and organizations. So it can be also organizations. Oh shoot, how do I fix that? So, am I going to delete everything on this? Okay, there we go. So, sorry everybody. So this part, organizations. This can also mean a company. So your company probably has many policies, and your school probably has many policies, right? So that means the goals and the activities of the government or your school or your workplace. So for example, government employees must follow the professional dress code policy. So it's like saying we have a guideline for this specific activity. In this case, dress code. The dress code is the activity, or the dress code is the thing we must have rules about. So they have a specific dress code policy. So in your work, there might be a clock in, like when you start work, what should do, what's the policy, right? What's the rule, right? It's not a law because you will not be arrested if you don't do it, but it's a policy. You can think of policy as connected to rules in your school or in your office, yeah? But they are rules and policies are not the same as laws. So let's compare these, okay? So law means the official rules of a country, city, or state. Those are the official ones. If you break the law, so that means you do something against the law, you can be in trouble. So for example, you can get arrested, you can pay a fine maybe. Maybe you have to go to jail for something, or maybe there are other punishments. So a law is an official rule in your country. A policy is a guideline for your actions in an organization. So they are a little different, yeah? So this policies talk about the goals of something, okay? All right, Marianne on Facebook has a great example. She wrote attendance policy at work. Exactly. So maybe you have a remote work policy or an in-office work policy at your job. Or like Marianne wrote, attendance policy. What is the attendance policy? What is the policy of the core working hours of your company? These are guidelines that the company gives you to help you understand how to act in your company. Okay? Patrick wrote, teacher, police and policy are different. Do they say, they sound different. Police, policy. Police, so the is, police, and policy do in fact have different pronunciations. Okay, let's finish on this section with a different pair. We're gonna talk now about citizenship and citizen. These two are very closely related, citizenship and citizen. Citizenship is the status of being a citizen in a country or of a country. So what's a citizen? A citizen is a person who belongs to a country. So if you have a passport, you are a citizen of that country. Yeah? So I have an American passport. I am an American citizen. So that means that I belong to that country. Or I have citizenship in the USA, in my case. I have citizenship. So we use to have citizenship for this status, to talk about our status. And we say, I am a citizen. I am a citizen. So citizenship is the concept, the idea, right? So if you want to try to make an example sentence, you can say, I have citizenship in your country. And you can say, I am a citizen of your country, okay? We'll practice this a little later. I have a sentence pattern for you to follow, okay? Last example here for this page. I passed the test and received my certificate of citizenship last month, all right? Passed my test and received my certificate of citizenship next month. So in many countries, you can change your citizenship by preparing and passing things such as tests, okay? All right, let's continue to some review points then. Let's review with a new example for policy. So the government introduced a new climate policy to reduce air pollution in major cities. So here we have policy. And what is the policy about? Climate, the climate. So global climate change, right? And we want to reduce. So reduce means to decrease air pollution. So that means dirty, bad, unhealthy air. right? In major cities. Okay, then let's continue because time's going out quickly. Citizenship. Citizenship, our last example here. Thousands of immigrants applied for citizenship after the new law was approved, okay? So applied to become a citizen of that country after the new law was approved, okay? All right, Omara, I have citizenship. That means I am a citizen. Yes, that is correct, okay? All right, let's continue. I think this is gonna be, oh, maybe I have 2 more groups of vocabulary words to discuss. Let's talk about this. This one's, it's a lot, it looks like a lot, but it's very easy because I'm going to draw something on the board. Ta-da! To help us. We're gonna draw the political spectrum. Beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about these words that are very commonly used in the news to talk about governments. So first we have left wing, then we have centrist, and then we have right wing, okay? So all of these words connect to what's called the political spectrum. So I drew, this is, don't worry about this shape. We're going to think about this as a kind of way to understand views. So let's start over here on the left side. So left wing, we can use this as a noun and as an adjective. A left wing is a person whose beliefs tend to be on the progressive or on the left side of the political spectrum, okay? So people on this side of the political spectrum, for example, they have very kind of forward-thinking beliefs. They want to move to the next idea. So for example, people like in the USA today, we have many people on the left side who believe that we should be very, very concerned and we should take action against climate change. Or they believe that there should be lots and lots of gun control. We should not have guns. Or that people of the same gender can get married and so on. So those ideas are on the left wing of the political spectrum. So we call people with those beliefs left wing. Left wing. So on the left side of the center, okay? So people with very, very, very far left ideas are the ones that have the very extreme viewpoints. So here's an example. Almost all my friends are left wing and we have interesting discussions. So we can use left wing to talk about someone's character, right? So that's their political beliefs. It's an easy way to describe someone's general political ideas, okay? All right, left wing, yes, control desk writes. Higher taxes for the wealthy is another example of a left-wing idea, right? There are many, many left-wing and right-wing ideas. I won't cover all of them today, but just to give you an idea, okay? All right, so let's compare this then to a centrist, a person who is a centrist. So maybe you can see here, centrist has center in the middle, right? The center of the political spectrum. So this is a person whose beliefs tend to be neither on the left side or on the right side, but somewhere kind of in the middle, okay? So they don't have really strong beliefs here or there. So they're in this area. This is where a centrist is, okay? So you can think about your position while I write this. Let's look at the example. I'm left-wing on social topics and right-wing on economic topics. Maybe I'm a centrist, okay? So maybe that's a way you can understand your ideas. For some topics, you're left, some topics, you're right, so maybe that means you're here, right? Okay, let's continue to right wing, the other side of the political spectrum. To be right wing, okay, this means it's a person whose beliefs tend to be on the traditional or the conservative or the right side of the political spectrum, okay? So this is like the opposite of the left-wing side. So you often see people that want to keep things the way they are, or they want to try things or do things that are kind of more traditional here. So like I talked about with the left wing, people on the right wing, maybe at least in the USA, they want things like, yeah, control desk, they want lower taxes. They want the business world to just operate by itself, no government in the business. They want, in the USA, people to have access to guns. They do not support marriages between people of the same gender, and so on. So the right wing tends to have more traditional beliefs and traditional values, yeah? So this section, this part over here, is usually considered as the right or the right wing. So wing, think about like the wings of a bird. That's kind of the shape here, right? Wing can also be used to mean like halls in a building. So the right wing or the left wing kind of separates, shows that the two are very different, yeah? So we have right wing, left wing, and centrist to talk about the different political beliefs. Okay, let me check the chat. I don't see anything, any questions about this. Okay, let's continue, because oh my gosh, I'm very late. So let's go to the last two words, and then we'll do a quick recap. Phew, we have a lot to cover. Today, let's finish our last words, are campaign and public services. We can use campaign as a noun and a verb. So a campaign is a plan of action for a person to achieve a goal, especially to win an election for a government position. Somebody asked earlier, what is an election? The election is when you decide on the leader, when you vote for your leader. The campaign is the time before that. The candidate tries to convince people, please vote for me. That's the campaign time before the election. So let's look at the example. Some candidates use attack ads on TV in their campaigns, all right? This is common in the USA. Maybe it's not common in your country. Okay, let's continue to the last one then. Oh, Wafa Dua wrote, what is beliefs tend to? So I put this part. The person whose beliefs tend to. That means in many cases, they usually believe that thing. Something tends to means it's typical or usually is that way. Okay, I hope that helps you. Okay, last one, because time's going quick. Public services. Hooray, we love public services. Public services. For example, services like transportation, employment assistance, like employment help if you lose your job, right? And healthcare that the people in the country can use. We call these public services. So, an example, our country really needs to invest more money in public services, like the train, yeah? All right, all of these very important. Okay, so let's continue past these last examples. I want to do a short quiz with you, and I don't have a lot of time. So I'll come back to this later, but if you missed it earlier, the team has a free PDF ebook for you. So let's take a look at some practice questions then, so you can review at the end of our lesson today. Do you remember, what is a system where people choose their leaders by voting? And if you already know the answer, you can come up with another example. What is the government system in your country? Okay, so is it a democracy? Is it authoritarianism? Is it policy? Is it campaign? What do you think? All right, so if you finish that, you can send me an example, or if you're watching this later, you can put an example in the comments. What is the government system in your country? If you had to choose from today's information, what is the government system in your country? All right, I see some people sending the answers in quickly. Yuzrav and Black Eagle have got it. It is democracy. A democracy is a system where people choose their leaders by voting, yeah? Campaign is, campaign, if we go back, oh my gosh. Campaign is the plan of action to achieve the goal, to become the leader. So a little bit different. A campaign is what we do to try to win an election, yeah? So it's a bit different from a democracy. Okay, let's continue because time is running out. What word means a person who belongs to a country? So which of these words? The person who belongs to a country. Equality, monarchy, citizen, corruption. And if you finish that, you can tell me, what country do you belong to? Here's my hint pattern. I am a blank of country. You can send your example in the chat. Okay, and some people are sending examples in the chat. Victor wrote, left wing and right wings were born in the French Revolution. That is correct. I did some research on that not too long ago. Citizen, everybody has it. Very nice job. Citizen is the correct answer there. Let's continue because I have no time left. Last one. Okay, so which one of these refers to things like healthcare, employment support, and transportation for a country's people? Policy, public services, vote, or oligarchy? And if you finish that, what do you think is the best support service for people to use in your country? This will be our last question for the day. Phew. Oh my gosh, we did it, almost there. Yeah, all right, Minnow and Natalie are the first ones that have it. Public services. Great job, YouTube. All right, I see Facebook is also getting the examples right. Marion and Messias wrote citizen for the last example too. I think maybe there's a lag between Facebook and YouTube. I don't know, but great job. And Omar wrote, I am a citizen of Egypt. Good example. Okay. Black Eagle wrote, the bus is an excellent public service. Fantastic. Okay, we made it. Oh my gosh, we made it. So we practiced all of these words. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that amazing? We got through it all. Hooray! So I hope this lesson was helpful to understand some key vocabulary words for understanding government. I have to leave because I talked a lot as usual. So don't forget to download your free PDF ebook from the link below the video, YouTube, or above the video, Facebook. It is free at EnglishClass101.com. Go crazy. Here is a quick homework assignment if you want to practice in the comments later. And next week, the lovely Daphne will be with you. I will be away next week, so please enjoy your lesson with her. I have to finish now, for real, for real. So thanks very much for joining me live this week. Have a great lesson with Daphne next week, and have a great week. Have a great weekend. I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.